Welcome to the Fantasy Goat. I'm Mike Davis. That's Jason Feinberg. For fantasy managers at home, all you kids at home, Kirk Cousins is actually leading all fantasy football quarterbacks in points right now.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk this?
I'm more interested in the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift romance.
Listen, it might be the Travis Kelce era. Hey, bye-bye, Juju. I'll never draft you ever again.
And you love Juju.
Bye-bye, Juju.
If Cooper Kupp were to come back in the fray, I'm sure somehow we can do, Puka Tutu in a cup. Something like that. Puka in a cup. I don't know.
Oh my God. Justin Fields, I'm not in the business of doing business with you if you're not gonna run.
I'm here in the Big Easy on Bourbon Street. My team is doing so bad, I had to come out here and give them a little pep talk, if you know what I mean.
Kylan Granson. He gave birth. He finally gave birth. He did a whole photo shoot. It took him 3 years of labor, Mike, 3 years of labor.
What are we talking
to
about right
finally
now?
give birth to a touchdown.
Is this a fantasy football show?
He wrapped the ball in a blanket, and he and his girlfriend, they had a photo shoot, and they welcomed in their first touchdown. Who made that? Was that James's family?
No, Bergman the third. Last year, I won both of your leagues. These
Two
are
of
the
my
two
three
trophies.
leagues. You got to give it up.
I gotta.
And I am the
gotta give
commissioner,
them to
so
you.
I'll take them.
Sorry. Get this punishment over with. Yeah, sweet potato fries. That's her favorite.
Oh, God.
It's luscious. It's majestic. How does it taste on your lips?
I like it.
Is it actually
It's pretty good.
I still cannot believe I made out with that teddy bear, Jason.
I can believe it. But, you did lose to me head-to-head last season. That was your punishment. And you were supposed to eat, 24 pancakes.
Yes, like 24 hours.
Spoiler alert, you did not finish all the chocolate chip pancakes, so I think you probably felt pretty guilty about that.
I did feel guilty. I don't regret it, though. We love that teddy bear. But listen, it's a new year. You were the champion last year. We're welcoming everybody back for the second season of the Fantasy Goat. I'm Mike Davis, and that's last year's Goat, Jason Feinberg. How did it feel to drink that goat's milk?
It was glorious. It was the first time I've had goat's milk, and it was great. But I tell you, just watching all the highlights I forgot how much fun we had.
We had so much fun, and that's what you guys can expect. All the kids at home, that's what a baby goat is called. It's called a kid.
Sure.
That's why we're going to call you guys that all season long. But let's tell people at home what we got happening on today's show. So we're going to be breaking down the 2024 draft board so you can crush your own fantasy draft. We're going to talk early, mid, and late round targets. Plus, we have some expert analysis from the owner and founder of Full Time Fantasy, Ian Ritchie. He's going to join us in the studio for a game of this or that. He's also going to grade the drafts Jason, you and I had at the Dr. Feinberg Invitational at Circa Resort and Casino. And later on, our peeps from last year, they're going to return. Dr. Nithin Natwa is going to talk some critical injuries, and our chief meteorologist here at Fox 5, Sam Argier, is going to give us a breakdown, a little weather preview of what we can expect the first few weeks of the season.
That's important.
Yes.
With kickers kicking and outdoors and things like that.
Who else takes fantasy football this seriously? We got injury and weather reports for you guys.
Right.
This is what it's all about. But first, this is a fantasy draft preview show before the season kicks off. We're going to do a little bit of breaking down everything and dissecting from last weekend's draft, Jason. Let's take a look at some of the fun we had at Circa Hotel and Casino for the Dr. Feinberg Invitational.
2024 Dr. Feinberg Invitational, the most prestigious fantasy football draft in all of America. Let's start this thing.
So there's Derek Stevens, there's Jason. That is the Dr. Feinberg Invitational with Full Time Fantasy. That is
And I should let people know, a lot of people ask, am I a doctor? I am not, but
no,
my cat.
who is Dr. Feinberg?
Dr.
Explain
Feinberg
it.
is my cat, and you can see by the stickers there, we draft by animal.
Yes.
Dogs and cats. I unfortunately got the last spot, the black cat.
Yeah, you're the Angry Cats. I'm Ralph Macchio's Cockapoos. Let's talk about this league. So it's a 12-team league, 1 point per reception. Jason, you were drafting, like you said, at the number 12 spot. Give us a little breakdown of why you chose the players you selected.
Well, I told you this week. I asked you. If you can get a friendship bracelet from anybody in the NFL, who would it be? I told you for me, it's Puka Nacua.
Yes.
I want a friend. It's like Travis Kelce. But here's my lineup. So I went with him first.
Yes.
Saquon, you have to get your bell cow, right? At least
Love
one
him.
bell cow running back.
Big year for him.
And then I just went with value. I mean, Nico Collins in the third, Devontae Smith in the fourth. I love Evan Ingram. I'll talk about him later. Zamir White is another bell cow, from what we know.
Josh Jacobs is in Green Bay, so he could be the main guy, really.
Totally love Jordan Love. He was looking great second half of the season. Calvin Ridley, to get him in the 8th round, he can have huge value. I always love Zach Moss. And then Jerome Ford I've picked up in all my leagues. One league I have Chubb. So I'm really glad I have Ford.
But he's going to be the starting guy there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a tale of two different teams here. So Jason, let's take a look at mine. Okay. I had the number 4 selection. You have a very balanced roster. Me at number 4, I got Bijan Robinson. I love the fact that Zach Robinson's coming in from LA. He's going to be, the new OC there. He's from that Sean McVay tree. They love to run the ball. I'm expecting a big year for Bijan. And then I really just tried to get value. Marvin Harrison Jr., Cooper Kupp, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Tank Dell, and then Anthony Richardson, a guy with major upside at that quarterback position when it comes to a dual threat quarterback. We saw last year before he got hurt, Anthony Richardson, he had like 18 points in like a quarter.
Right.
This guy's like, he's plowing people over. He's throwing the ball. He's got that Shane Steichen, mentality with the head coach there. He's a great quarterback guru. So I love that stuff. The problem is I have some weak RB2s. But if Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, or Chase Brown hit, the team's going to be pretty strong.
Right, no, for sure. And you have to just hope that Richardson stays healthy.
Yes.
Because he's only been 1 year, but we saw what happened.
100%.
He's not the biggest guy in the world.
It's boom or bust.
Right.
I play the win, everybody.
Sure,
Kids,
sure.
that's what it's all about. You want to win in fantasy football. You're not trying to just, I got to make sure everything's methodical. No, go big or go home.
That's right.
In fantasy football. All right, so we love both of our teams, but everybody loves their respective teams. Come on, Jason.
Sure.
After they draft. That's why we need some expert insight. Coming up, we have, after the break, the owner and founder of Full Time Fantasy, Ian Ritchie, is live in the studio with us. Look at that glorious man right there. He's got a head full of fantasy knowledge. He's going to go and grade our drafts, Jason. Plus, he's going to get us prepared for draft day. He's going to help us out when we're in the thick of it and the clock's winding down and you need to make that big time decision. You're 50-50. He's going to tell us what to do in a game of this or that. That's after the break.
This is the Fantasy GOAT.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fantasy GOAT. So Jason and I are pleased to introduce a brand new segment this season.
This year, week in and week out, we will have expert fantasy football analysis from the owner and founder of Full Time Fantasy, Ian Ritchie.
Yes, Ian, great to have you with us. We're going to be playing a game of this or that with you to help assist fantasy managers with draft day predicaments. But before we do that, we had our annual draft with Full Time Fantasy at Circa Resort and Casino last weekend with the Dr. Feinberg Invitational, as we were saying earlier. So we're going to get some insight from you and really see what you thought of our respective draft. So right there on the screen, you can see Jason Feinberg's draft. Ian, tell us, we were both a little biased. What do you think of that draft?
I think Jason had a great draft. It's a very balanced team. He'll have good starters each week. In his head-to-head games, he should do extremely well. A lot of consistent players with some good upside. I like Barkley quite a bit this year. I think he's got huge upside. I'm a little nervous with Nacua coming in with a bursa sack injury at the knee. That's usually not a great sign heading into the season. But I think you got some great upside guys with some real good bell cow backs with Zamir White down there. You have Zach Moss, who you got later, some good value. And everybody passed on Tyler Lockett, who I know you have as well. Because he's been a little injured and everybody's high on Smith and Jigba. But I think you did a great job on your draft. Very consistent team. You'll do really well in the head-to-heads.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
That's beautiful stuff to hear. All right, now let's go to my draft. What do you think?
I think you guys' drafts fit your personalities.
How you paused. You paused. You had a big pause there.
I think the drafts fit your guys' personalities, right? Jason has a pretty conservative team that's good head-to-head, and Mike went for broke. And Mike has what we call a tournament team. He drafted the highest upside guy at each draft pick he could take instead of really focusing on the balance, which is why it led to him waiting on that second running back. And, the second running backs you chose, Pollard, Warren, Chase Brown, all have enormous upside potential. They're just not locked in yet, right? If those guys hit, your team could be extremely strong and extremely difficult to beat because your receivers are so good. Your tight end situation's a little dicey with Hawkinson out for 4 weeks, relying on Noah Fant. That's going to be a little tough for you, but your team is definitely more of a tournament team than a head-to-head team.
I love. Listen, this
Back
is
when I was your age, son, I used to do the same thing. Now I'm more conservative, like my 401k.
Hey, I've always been this way since my bar mitzvah. Screw it. We're going to try to go big or go home. But now it's time for this or that. So this is a game that's intended to really represent those awful moments during fantasy football drafts, Jason, when the clock is winding down, you're faced with an impossible choice. It's like Sophie's choice, Jason, trying to decide what you're going to do between two players. Who do you take? You just don't know what to do. So that's what we're going to be doing.
The last time I checked, is not on any roster.
Yes, is not.
All right, so thankfully we do have Ian here to help us out. So let's start. This is a good one. You have a rookie versus somewhat of a vet. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Davante Adams.
Harrison Jr. has a higher upside.
Okay.
Davante Adams is more of the consistent pick for a week to week. Marvin Harrison has top five upside if Kyler Murray stays healthy and can do extremely well. If you're looking for that locked in every week, I would go with Davante Adams. But if you're looking for upside, it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay. This or that, Trey McBride or Dalton Kincaid?
Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
And I say that because I think McBride benefited last year from the lack of weapons that they had on the field. And I think now with Connor healthy here at the end, with Marvin Harrison Jr., like we talked about, Michael Wilson being the second one, I think Dalton Kincaid outscores Trey McBride this year.
Okay.
All right, I think I know the answer to this one because one of them is on your magazine that you published and one of them's not. So that is Bijan Robinson or Breece Hall.
We like Breece Hall. The Atlanta situation is good, although Algier, the backup for Robinson, is really good and should get at least 40% of the carries probably there. And Breece Hall had 65 catches last year without Aaron Rodgers. So we expect a step up in the catches there, and we expect Breece Hall to have a really, really great year.
All right.
By the way, when we going back to Davante Adams, I actually thought it was Devontae Smith at first. That's why I said sort of a veteran. Davante Adams is a veteran.
Yes.
So I just want to clear that up.
100%.
Yeah.
Ian, thanks so much for being here, my man. Go check out Full-Time Fantasy for some more great insight. We appreciate you being here. All right, next up, Jason and I are talking draft day targets, from early rounds to mid rounds to late draft day targets. We got you covered. Stick around. What's up, kids? Welcome back to the Fantasy Go. So, Jason, now it's time to discuss early and mid and some late round draft targets. So, Jason, you're going to kick us off with your early draft targets. Tell us about that.
All right. So, I really like, and it's funny because Ian mentioned it too, but my early round draft target is Breece Hall. You know he's going to get the ball a lot. And you also know that Aaron Rodgers, he does dump the ball off quite a bit, and sky's the limit once he gets the ball in some open space. Yeah. So I'm targeting Breece Hall. I think I have a 5th pick overall in a draft, and I'm going to take him unless he's gone.
Okay. All right. My early draft target, let's all just do it right now, ladies and gentlemen, kids at home. Let's pray to the Egyptian sun god, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Listen, Justin Jefferson has questions. No more Kirk Cousins there. We all know that. He's got Sam Darnold throwing him the ball. We know Jamar Chase. He's holding in. He's not even practicing right now in Cincinnati. He's got questions. There's all these players with questions. CD just signed his contract, but hey, he could get off to a slow start.
Might be 3 weeks before he gets his groove.
So let's just keep it simple. Go with the guy who's consistent and you know who's going to give you what you want, Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right. Now we're going to do a little bit of some late round targets as well. Jason, tell us about your late round target.
So there was a few that I was going to go for, but I would remember the name Andre Yoshivas, okay, for Cincinnati. But that's more of a deep sleeper. Let's talk more of a late round draft target. How about Jalen Polk? He's a rookie from Washington, and now he's on a team where they don't really know who the number one wide receiver is going to be in New England. So I like him he's not really getting drafted like I thought he would.
No, he's getting great position, I hear, in camp. He's one of those guys in New England now who can really, he's like almost like box out. He like boxes out the corners because he has that kind of build, almost like how Antonio Gates played the ball, all that kind of stuff. Now, my late round target is Kirk Cousins, okay? Listen, this guy, you might not love him when it comes to real football, but in fantasy football, this dude can ball out. I love how there's a whole new system going in place in Atlanta. You got to love what he's going to do there, from Bijan to Drake London. There's a lot of good stuff. But real quickly,
and he's your backup.
And he's a backup. Now, real quickly, you had Evan Ingram. I had Jake Ferguson as our mid-round target. So if you're thinking about some mid-round guys, tight end-wise, that's a great place to go. Guys, we're going to be right back after a short break. You don't want to go anywhere. More Fantasy GOAT is coming up. It's the worry that keeps us up at night.
Yes, Mike. What happens when we die?
I actually meant that dreadful fantasy football thing that happens to fantasy managers when they experience a player going on the IR or PUP when
almost as
they get
important.
injured. Yes, it's basically more important, Jason. But perhaps our next guest can actually tackle the meaning of life as well. He's the secret weapon we all know and love, and now he's back for season 2. The one, the only Dr. Nithin Natwa joins us right now at Fantasy Docs on social media. He's right there. Look at that. Look how cool that is.
That is so cool. Yes. So Doc, it's great to have you back with us. Let's dive right into it. Joe Burrow. Okay, how concerned are you about his wrist injury? And I do believe it's his throwing arm too.
Yeah, so Joe Burrow had a pretty significant injury last season. It was that scapulolunate injury, which is the ligament that connects two bones in the middle of the hand that are responsible for grip strength. So you can imagine in the throwing hand, that's pretty concerning. But the positives with Burrow, which make me not concerned about it, is that he's had over a year since surgery. He's been throwing fine, and then he's been showing that he is completely ready for week 1. And you can see right there that scaphoid bone is highlighted in green. The lunate bone is immediately next to it as well, too. It can show some reduction in grip strength, but this is their their franchise quarterback. I don't really see any reason why they would be sugarcoating how he's doing if he seemed like he wasn't ready or having chronic pain. I feel like they would be pretty ready to pull him back out and delay his return for a couple weeks. But with him ready to go week 1, I'm really happy with where he's going. I think he should be a good QB1, and that should also help Chase, obviously, once he signs.
All right. Now, next up, Doc, we got Nick Chubb. That injury last year, we all remember it. It's one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen on television. I know Chubb is out for at least the first 4 games of the year on that PUP list, but how confident are you in his return? And, is he going to be back to that Nick Chubb performing like we know Nick Chubb should be performing? Is he going to be like that, and would you draft him personally?
Yeah, I would not draft him, although I think that Nick Chubb is one of the most talented running backs in the league, and he's got stamina like none other. We all saw him doing those squats with insane weight. I think the barbell was bending under the weight, and everyone was pretty excited because this was after his ACL injury. But I feel like people kind of forget that weightlifting is 101 for NFL athletes. They've been doing this their entire life, and them putting up an insane amount of weight isn't really an indication of how they're performing on the field. And this is the second ACL injury that Nick Chubb had in his knee. After a certain period of time, there's an increased risk of arthritis, which makes a second repair a little bit more complicated. And in addition to that, he also tore the MCL, which you can see the ACL highlighted right there. The MCL is the ligament on the left of that, which isn't really shown. 2 ligaments injured in the same knee requiring repair on the second major knee injury doesn't really bode well for long-term prospects, much less the same season. He is out for sure for the first 4 games, but that's not a guarantee that he's going to be back later in the season. They could determine that he's not ready to go after those first 4 weeks, and they could shut him down, which I think is a real possibility, which is why I'm not targeting him unless he's on the waivers, and I have an IR slot.
All right. Puka Nacua, he's dealing with a knee bursa. Is this going to be a problem? He's like my favorite player. I want a friendship bracelet from him.
No, I love Puka. I mean, it was insane to watch that generational rookie season he put on. It puts even more value to Stafford's Hall of Fame campaign, which I'm a huge fan of because I like Stafford. Puka, he had a bursa injury, and what that is there's a fluid sac that provides lubrication in between the joints in our body. And sometimes when they get aggravated, either by overuse or by direct impact, as you can see, that's the most commonly injured bursa on the knee, the prepatellar bursa, then increased fluid happens when it's hit. And that causes it to be inflamed and large in size and causes pain. But injury-wise, it's the best injury you can have because it never requires any kind of surgery. They can actually treat it symptomatically really easily. Usually it's just rest and over-the-counter like Aleve or ibuprofen.
Oh, okay.
But in worst-case scenarios, they can inject some steroid in there, they can pull out the fluid, and they can get them ready to go on the same day if it flares up.
All right.
It's not affecting my draft position at all for him.
Good.
All right, so that's good to know. The great Dr. Nithin Natwa, you're the best. You're the GOAT. Go follow him on social media at Fantasy Docs. Doc, thank you so much. We'll see you next week, and we'll be right back after a short break.
This is the Fantasy GOAT.
All right, so Jason, one of our other favorite characters from last season, he's back.
Yes, we don't stop at just medical advice here on the GOAT. We go to expert weather analysis as well. Let's welcome back our good friend, the chief meteorologist at Fox 5 Las Vegas, Sam Argier.
Jason and Mike, we have you covered all season long on the weather front here on the Fantasy GOAT. So I wanted to take a little longer range outlook through the start of the football season through November, and all that orange around the U.S., that is warmer than average weather favored through November. That now doesn't mean that we can't still see some cold snaps at times, but as a whole, as we head through fall, trending warmer for much of the game. So heat could be an issue, especially for those games down in Florida, Texas as well, and of course the Northeast. I want to show you precipitation because we are favored to see wetter than average weather along the East Coast and up in the Pacific Northwest for some of those games up in Seattle. Could see some rain as well. Now, we'll, of course, be updating you weekly with a more fine-tuned forecast, but right now, that's the way things are looking as we head through the first half of the football season.
I just love this.
That's valuable.
We have valuable weather advice, medical advice. I wish we really did have advice on what happens when you die, Jason.
Yeah, right, because we have everything else. Yeah, exactly. Solid first show.
Great first show. Welcome everybody back. Good luck with your respective drafts. Jason, you and I, we still have a bunch of more drafts to tackle, but we can't wait to start the season.
I want everybody. It's crazy, except for a few people. That's what's exciting about this.
It's the best time.
I want to draft everybody.
Same with me. It's the best time of year. Good luck in your drafts. We'll see you guys next week on the Fantasy GOAT.